Tax happy hour. Dig.
I mean, wait, am I live? Yeah, no, I'm live.
You're
We're
live.
late. We're late. Sorry, I had everything configured for the other thing. How are you,
That's
Justin?
fine. Hey man, what's going on, buddy? What's the haps?
Dude, I think it's been years, multiple years, since I've appeared on Daily Tech News Show.
Wow.
And I'm a bit ashamed because I should have put myself out there because I always love doing it, but I get the impression that that Tom just wants to be courteous with my time because I'm always talking about how overwhelmed I am. So that's usually not the time you want to say, "Hey, you want to do my Tech News Show?"
Well, I mean, I think that part of it is the show sort of rolls, like, so if I can get it, even if like literally you were ever in a conversation with Tom and you were like, hey, I'd love to do Daily Tech News Show, he would be like, great, cool, I'll email Roger and we'll schedule it, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't make that comment, that show is on such rails because Tom has built the greatest machine in professional independent podcasting that it's like it can be years before they have the independent thought of like, oh, let's do Creator Week. Oh, it'd be great for Creator Week. It's Brian.
Yeah.
And that's why you were on. So yeah, I would say just if it hits you, just go ahead and let Tom know. I'm sure you'd be on lickety split.
Yeah. So today marks, I believe, day 10 of working out every single day, which I have not done also in possibly years. And it's
How are you feeling?
freaking great, man. It's the cool weather is coming in. The highs are around 84, 85. So like I start at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning when I get up. And because I'm not driving kids around, I got that time. And
Yeah.
when it peaks, it's still, relatively pleasant. But today I did 9 miles of walking and jogging and a full hour on the stationary bike at, I think I had it set to 16 out of 20 or 17 out of 20. So it's playing Hearthstone and sweating it up
Sure.
a storm.
Yeah.
Which is probably the best behaved working out I've done in multiple years. And it takes, it takes a little while to ramp up to that, where it's like, it feels good to be working out.
Yeah, I think it's always personal for everybody. But the biggest thing that I found is like I'm very good at talking myself out of things. Like, and so oftentimes I need to make the concept of working out something that is a deal I can't help but take. Like I gotta have it be like I gotta be able to see to the end of it, especially now with like my schedule now is like pretty jam packed. Like, I really only have like an hour or so to do something. So it's like it's hard to make it work. But I think for you are kind of at the top of the pyramid. You've got a lot of stuff kind of like spinning where you only have to plug in for a couple hours where all the other stuff that you're doing is not stuff that you necessarily need to be on camera for. It's all important, right?
Yeah.
But you being able to just dedicate this time, it's got to just be like a wellspring of endorphins and unlocking so much mind space.
Yeah, that's the thing I'm really worried about is what happens when the erratic chaos strikes. Because like when there's 4 shoot days in a row or whatever, that's when all this is going to fly off the rails. Right now, I don't know. We're only going to start shooting some Scam Nation stuff over the weekend, and ads we usually shoot late in the day, preferably golden hour or whatever. But at some point, there's going to be a chaotic like 4 days in a row of something. But even then, and this is maybe only a temporary quarantine coronavirus thing, but not having to drive Penny to work. I mean, that's the first hour of my day freed up, and then we don't tend to schedule anything at all before noon. So really from 8:30 to noon, I mean, I'm hoping I could keep on doing this every day, even on a shoot day, and get something out of it.
Yeah. I think that the big key The key is always, people were asking me in my stream today about like the weight loss stuff. And I honestly said that like the first big thing for me before anything started was nailing down my sleep schedule.
Yeah.
Like that was number one. Number one is, I mean, you talk about shoot days being able to move around your day. You move around your day every time you either do or don't get to sleep. And that for you is a struggle. It takes extra effort to make sure that you can get to sleep because you are somebody that struggles with that. Uh, and no matter what, it's like that's the payment, at least for me, because that sets your day. Like your day is, I get up at this time, I go to sleep at this time, so I always get up at this time. Sometimes I go to sleep a little later, but I still get up at this time. Like that's what happens. And then the rest of your day is something that you can plan on. Like the rest of the day now is yours to set. All right, well, I eat my first meal at this time. I eat my second meal at this time. When everything is sliding, at least for me, I don't have that self-discipline to be like, no, this is now my 9 o'clock is now my noon, and my noon is my 3, and my 3 is my 9. Like I will punt on the day, and if I punt on the day, then it's going to be way harder for me not to punt tomorrow.
There is definitely, I don't know, and you never know exactly what project will be the one that cause it. Like you could see a storm on the horizon with your schedule when you're gonna, work on certain projects or whatever. And I guess much like an actual storm, your boat goes into it, and sometimes you go through a storm and you're like, that was just fine, a little bit choppy, but all's well. And then other times you just hit that total, screw it, all bets are off. Nothing, I'm just going to get through this. I'll be happy if I make it alive.
Fearless Freep in the chat says that the goals are key. I would actually disagree with that. I would say that the goals are not as good as the systems. If you can build a system of
where this is what natural I do, result,
when I'm going to do it, and then you can prove that it has that it pays a dividend. Like when I started working out, I didn't want abs. I didn't go in saying, here we go, I'm going to drop X amount of pounds and I'm going to do that. I'm like, I literally just kind of think I got too, I was heavier than I wanted to be. And I wanted to kind of get that under control. And I put in that system. And then at a certain point, I was just like, oh, do I just got to keep my foot on the gas? Because if I just got to keep my foot on the gas and I can do this other stuff, then it's like, that's cool. That's interesting. Look at that. A fun science experiment. I wonder if I just keep doing what I'm doing, if these other things will happen. And then they did. And it's like, that's way easier for me, at least, because in my mind, I'm very quick to judge myself on like, didn't do it. I guess these goals will never be achieved. I guess, I guess I'm just a failure at this. Might as well just give up on it. And it's like, I know that that's how my brain works. And so I got to keep broad goals, but like very short focused, like one day at a time kind of stuff.
Yeah. The sentiment you're expressing is really close to, remind me of Dr. Dean Adele's book, Eat, Drink, and Be Merry. Where he talks about how the healthiest and most fit and the buffest and the lowest fat he ever was when he wasn't trying to get any of those things. It was when he decided to build a log cabin. And maybe it wasn't a log cabin, but it was something that involved him chopping down trees and moving stuff around. And an organic side effect of it was that he looked in the mirror and he was like, Jesus Christ, look at this. And that's exactly the kind of thing that you have to do. And so, for me, kind of the walk, jogging, what's actually, I realized today that it's almost kind of like an HIIT, a high intensity, high interval training, where what I'll do is I'll walk on my turn of Hearthstone, and then as soon as I finish my turn, I just run to the best of my ability, and then it's my turn again, and then I walk. And so what I'm doing is interval training without even trying to. And in my mind, I'm listening to a podcast and hiding from work and playing Hearthstone. But BT Dubs, you just spent 2.5 hours interval training.
Yeah. No, it's it really is whatever works. And that's, I've thought a lot about like fitness programs and diet programs and stuff like that since I've been more involved in it. And it's like, it's always the dumbest possible thing because it's like the easiest thing is like, hey, have a plan and stick to it. Go.
Yeah.
Like, and I think oftentimes you're never ready to hear that until you are, or you're never ready to believe it until you are. But it's so interesting to know that there's just this entire cottage industry of people selling you the dream, right? Whatever the version of the dream that you want to believe in is, in reality, it's like, hey, cut down how many calories you eat and do something. Literally anything.
It really is. It really is. What's really wild is how my tastes change when I'm working out regularly. Like the last night, I grabbed some sundries from the local corner store, and I walked right down the candy aisle, and I just had one thought, and it was like, ugh. Like, and other times it's like all that would be nothing but a hall of temptations, but for some reason, at some deep core level, like my body knows how much effort I put in today, and the idea of having a Reese's peanut butter cup actively sounds gross compared to having something a little more protein based, like whether it's salted nuts or beef jerky or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I made sure for myself that I didn't want to stop drinking. That was like my thing.
Yeah.
Is like that's the first thing that everybody tells you. You want to lose weight, stop drinking.
And then to which both of us are like, "Fuck you!"
It's like I don't give a fuck. Like honestly, if I work super hard and all I do is lose 10 pounds and like I'm not knocking this off, like I'm sorry. This is just it's a thing I like to do. I'm sure all of some of you like to draw and some of you like to dance and some of you play AutoCAD, like whatever the fuck your like pleasure is. Mine is I like to sit by myself and drink. It's how I was raised. Like I wish I could get a religious dispensation for this.
Fortunately, Justin, I'm going to guess that this is not a surprise given the fact that we have spent hours, maybe entire days, singing the praises of sitting alone in a bar, ignoring everyone.
For the record, Brian and I, our favorite thing to do is sit and not talk to each other, like at a bar. Just the comfort of somebody else who's enjoying silence as much as you are. But when I figured like, all right, look, and I didn't really plan any calorie stuff. I just realized like, all right, here are things that I know aren't going to kill me in terms of calorie counting. Once I started losing weight, then I realized like, oh, well, maybe I don't get the midweek beers. Maybe I switch to whiskey. Maybe I try to mix in a few like non-drinking days. But by that point, I had a buy-in for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't this blind faith kind of thing. It was, oh no, like I know I'm losing X amount of weight. I could lose +2 if I don't do this thing on this day. So it's like there was a transaction that I could understand that wasn't faith-based.
That wasn't like, just do this and good things will happen. All of a sudden you begin to think of calories as a currency and you're like, it's not that I have to do a thing. It's like, I don't want to spend 300 calories on an IPA like that. I mean, that's what always got me was like those Lagunitas Maximus, 300 calories per bottle. You have 4 of those in a day. That's 1,200 calories that you didn't need.
That's the thing is, man, I'll always get these like the corner store around me has like a bunch of independent craft brew shit or whatever, and so I'll always just get that.
I love it.
It's always delicious, and it's always 6 to 7%, and it's always like in a fucking it's like bone dog, and it's like a skeleton of Spuds McKenzie like doing an ollie or some shit like that. And I've tried. Sometimes I get a little curious and I'm like, let me look. Is there any calorie on it? And I never look hard enough to find it. And I'm like, man, I just like put it down.
You Google that shit, you're gonna shit a brick, man. Like,
but you want to know what? It's like it is what it is. Like that's the only time that I really drink a bunch of beers in a row now is when I'm walking. And so I'm like, all right, you want to know what? At the very least, whatever I'm taking in right now, Like
I'm moving 100 calories an hour.
I'm putting a down payment on whatever this is. I'm getting it at a discount. At least I'm paying wholesale prices on this. I'm not paying retail.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am with that. But again, it's like I always kind of like blink at friends of mine that are like, "Oh, look, I like gave up a bunch of shit and now I'm losing weight." And it's like, "Okay.
For how long? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
How long?
Well, it's
You
just
gonna
like
white knuckle
it's like
this?
well, cuz also it's like I even notice it now where it's like I'm down to the lowest I've probably been since college, and I didn't really weigh myself a lot in fucking college, but like I certainly am in a better physical shape than I was then.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, even now, I've been at this weight for probably about a month, and I'm like, little fat. Like, it's amazing.
That's the betrayal, is you don't see how fat you are until you start working out. It's only like a week and a half into working out that you're like, it's only when you actually start losing weight that you become like dialed in on like, Jesus Christ, look at what is this? And then, or at least that's the way it was for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a PX3 listener. I think he listens to Night Attack, but Dr. Whiskey, who when Heaton and I were in Nashville for Politicon, he's local to Nashville, so we came out to our meetup, and then we went with him to this like fucking amazing dive bar outside of Nashville called Santa's Pub.
Oh, I remember you telling me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. They only sell beer in cans and shit, and it would just look like a trailer park, and it was fucking amazing. But like, he sent me a picture of us outside of Santa's Pub, and I was like, ooh, that's a gut that doesn't exist anymore. Like that was like, I didn't realize in that picture. I when I first saw the picture, I wouldn't have thought of myself as overweight or anything. And I let me just point out again for everybody, I'm not saying I'm overweight. I'm saying that it was for me. But like, I was like, oh, well, that doesn't exist. But the thing is, for me now, it's the opposite side. Now it's like, like there's still that extra 5 pounds. There's still that extra 10 pounds.
That's my journey. And again, we'll give the disclaimer every single time we mention our numbers. It's a personal journey for everyone. But for me, the tipping point was hitting 177, being 5'6.5". And now I'm at 151. And I mean, that's 26 pounds. That's a significant amount of my total body weight. But it's like, but now I'm obsessed with just 4 more. Just get me down, because when I and I don't know why it matters, but I know that going into doing the TV show, my goal was to get in the lower 140s, but I was a little bit upset that I was at 145. But now I look at the TV show, I'm like, look at that sweet summer child. He's so dainty and lithe. And for some reason, I'm obsessed with getting to the mid 140s or even upper mid.
Yeah. The thing is, I really don't even know the weight element to it. I feel like from where I am now, that's about as low. When I look up like healthy weights for my height, I'm at the lower end of healthy.
And then, and that's the other thing, is anybody who has the type of body that you wish you had is almost certainly, unless they got tons of muscle, unless they're Chris Evans or Hugh Jackman.
And that's the thing, is like, now I'm like, I'm like Googling like what the fighting weight of like UFC fighters my height are. Like, just to be like, all right, just where, like, understanding that they're professional athletes who have entire teams dedicated to fine tuning their bodies like race cars, right? Like, where am I? Like, if life is a gigantic dealership, right? And those are Formula One racers, like things that require a staff of 40 to even operate. Like, am I a Civic? Like I mean, and if I'm a Civic, like, what does it take to get to
A souped up Civic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, like if I just want to move into like Lexus, right, with the goal of maybe being a Tesla at some point, like where is like just the journey there? But again, it's like that's my problem with like the goal thing, is that goals to me are torture. Like systems and mile markers are feasible. Like they are like, I just know every day if I do this, every day if I eat this, then I'm on a road, and maybe I need to change the system. Maybe I need to dial, a certain thing back or a certain thing up. But I do know that if I just keep on this road, then I will continue to make progress, where it's like if I told myself, no, I gotta get to fucking like Jorge Masvidal's at 170 and he's around my height, like I need to now lift enough and get on creatine so I can get to 170, like that wouldn't make me happy. Like I would break down and I'd probably wind up moving backwards.
Yeah, I guess what the image that popped into my mind is like, don't say you want to go to California. Just wake up every morning and drive towards the setting sun. And then one day you'll wake up and you'll be in California.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was, for me, the moment was realizing like, I'm like, okay, hey, look, I've lost some weight. Oh, look, I lost 5 pounds. I lost 10 pounds. I lost 15 pounds. And then because I have that smart scale, just like Googling, like, like what weight do you get at? Like what body fat do you get abs? And just being like, I mean, I went from X to this. I'd have to go less than that to get to that number. So fuck it. Like,
and plus also it's like, not like we got anything else to do. Corona.
Well,
right?
That's the other thing. And like, I was thinking about doing some kind of social media post about it. And I was like, I wanted to have my like self-depreciating rejoinder at the end of like, by the way, like my gut as soon as sports bars open again, and just have the like the king from Hamilton, like, you'll be back.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm aware of it too, man. It's the door's already open for me, but I'm doing my best to. I still have not gone to a real life bar or anything yet.
Yeah, and I wonder if like, I mean, what I hope is that my system is manageable enough that it can survive pretty much anything. Like, cause my routine now is like have my manageable food, right? And then, the run and the workout. And the run happens right when I wake up. The workout happens for 20 minutes in the middle of the day. I can always make time for 20 minutes in the middle of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And even when presumably life gets back to normal and that means meeting friends at a bar or something like that, like that will be that. I guess the big thing was for me with this is like, I really use the Groundhog Day thing to my advantage, as opposed to letting it torture my brain.
And that's the other thing is like those vaccines are going to come and Groundhog Day is going to end. And now is the moment. And I think you and I both went through similar trajectories, maybe at different times of being sad, upset, and hiding in a bottle for a little bit or whatever. But it is a fact that whether you do start taking care of yourself and using this to your advantage or not, the time will pass anyway. So when the vaccines arrive and we get to go outside, you kind of decide right now what kind of shell you want your beautiful soul and spirit to be occupying when you step outside again into the real world.
Yeah, I will say I think it's hard for everybody. It's hard for everybody to kind of reconcile. It was hard as shit for me, and everybody I've known has gone through the roller coaster of like, hey, you want to know what? This is fun. Well, it's actually kind of a gift to well, like, fuck this. This is fucking hell. The relentless pounding of fucking life. Like, this is not what I live for. And that's there's no way to talk your way out of that, because that's your brain. Like, that's your brain processing the world, and there's no logic that gets you out of that. Like, and then that's before you get into processing news and what you are pushing into your own sphere of influence.
Yeah. Hey, lighter topic. What was your 2-sentence take on the VP debate?
It was a throwback. You know, the Democrat called the Republican heartless, and the Republican called the Democrat a job killer. And, you know, it felt kind of like an old school, like, you know, like, show me that smile again. It was like a warm, old fashioned nostalgia hug.
Yep. Right down to the whole part where nobody answers the goddamn questions. Like,
yeah. I mean, I will say that, like, obviously there are points in which both candidates want to dance around. There are elements that they believe that they both. It was a very traditionally strategized debate. Both obviously had issues that they wanted to trap the other in. I thought Pence was probably more effective in trapping Harris. Like, he kind of stumbled Harris early when he turned around her criticism of the Trump administration's coronavirus response to, like, how dare, this is Pence, how dare you say that America failed at the coronavirus? I believe in America, and I think it's disgusting that you would say that America, the hardworking men and women of America, failed. And then she had to go back on it. But
I also hadn't heard that reframe of comparing it to the H1N1 during the Obama administration. That was a bit of apples to oranges comparison theater that I thought was pretty effective to compare to 60 million infected instead of 4 million or whatever.
And that's, I think, you know, that's a way that they, pardon the pun, can inoculate themselves against, like, oh, it's the Vietnam War, or it's the, you know, World War II or something like that. Is like, it's a closer comparison, at least, to say a virus that bears no resemblance to coronavirus
versus
right?
another virus. Yeah.
But and then it also, like, tags it back to Joe Biden. The one that was hilarious that either of them wanted to answer was, hey, your boss is old as shit. Yeah. What's up with that? And they were both like, I'm so glad you asked that. I do like pina coladas and getting lost in the rain.
Yeah, no, that was fairly transparent.
Yeah, either of them wanted anything to do with that. They were both like, well, I think that skies are blue and red roses too. You know, there was just silly. I mean, I God knows, I mean, there's not even a 5 minutes to let this one breathe, as now there's this other controversy about the debate going virtual and Trump pulling out and blah blah blah. But, like, it's I don't know. I thought nobody cares about the VP debate, so it doesn't really have anything any bearing on the vote.
It almost seemed to be like a proxy debate in a way where it's just like, okay, we know how you felt about last week. This is as close to what you guys want as you're going to get. And so that's why I feel like there was an inordinate amount of excitement about the VP debate.
It was interesting. It was interesting that people were like, well, the reaction was funny. The reaction was funny because all we get for a week, aside from the COVID stuff, is like, that last debate, awful, disgusting, below the station of the American presidency. Absolute. What happened to issues? What happened to serious discussion? This is the future of America at stake. Flash forward a week. That motherfucker had a fly on his head. Fly on head, motherfucker. Look at your head, bitch. You got a fucking fly on it. Fly on his head.
Man,
which is like, it's just, I mean, whatever.
How do you think it would have landed if in the middle of him talking, Kamala started like waving and getting his attention and making him look over, and then she just kind of does this, and then it just derails over, and she's like, "You had a fly on your head. I'm sorry,
had a fly on your head."
Like, yeah. I wonder if that would be perceived as, an awful thing for her to do or a very kind thing for her to do? I mean, I guess the answer is based on what color.
I would imagine.
I
would imagine, much like the samurais have a code, politicians have a code to not mention each other's hair. There's a lot of thought and effort that goes into the hairstyle of a politician, and commenting on it, or God forbid, suggesting somebody touch their own hair would be verboten.
Oh my gosh. You're right. I guess I always assumed that the only reason, I didn't think about like a code, but I guess the only reason that I had assumed that the only reason that Trump didn't make fun of other people's hairstyles is because his is so eminently mockable that he wouldn't want to throw that stone.
Yeah. I mean, it's it was, I thought it was a good debate by and large. I thought they actually I'm going to zag on the moderator thing. Like, I think that there should be less moderation in these debates. Like, I was not a fan of the moderator being as tight as she was.
Well, but
just
she
like,
wasn't
Mr. President, or Mr. Vice President, please.
She's
Mr.
like
Vice
your
President,
AM
please.
clock radio coming on, and he just kept hitting snooze. He's like, no, I'm gonna get up in time. Just don't worry about it.
Especially when the last question is like, this 8-year-old drew a sailboat. If you were on the sailboat, who do you imagine would be sailing with you? And it's like, whatever, just let him go for the extra minute and then move the debate on.
Well, what's funny is I didn't think she was a very tight moderator, because it seems like a moderator would hold people to account to answer the question, but I guess that's not on the menu.
Oh yeah, no. So I would rather that. I would rather her say, "Hey, you didn't answer the question." But then again, also it's like, if you're around enough, that like, all right, they're not going to. So we can keep rephrasing, "Will you answer the question?" and we'll be here all night.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I after raising kids and dogs so much, like doing only positive reinforcement, in like, you didn't answer the question would be negative reinforcement, but positive reinforcement would be just keep asking the exact same fucking question over and over and over again. Yeah. Let him say whatever he wants until it just shines a big old fat yellow highlighter on the fact that he's not answering the question.
It is crazy, and I don't think this is the biggest issue in the election, and obviously this is something that the Trump administration is pushing. But the idea that, all right, we have a question about whether or not you should change the makeup of the Supreme Court. And there is a line of thought that says, yes, you should add more seats to the Supreme Court because the Republicans have succeeded in flipping the balance to more Republican appointed justices than Democratic appointed justices. I think that's a legitimate question to ask on whether or not like you are doing it. And the fact that not only has Biden and Harris not answered it theatrically, but also Biden was out today saying like, you'll know my thoughts on packing the court after the election. And it's like, and people are like, yeah, don't fall for that trick, Joe. Don't fall for that trick. And I'm like, man, the bit has flipped where like, we're so dialed in as unpaid staffers for these candidates that we're like, yeah, strategy. Like, yeah, it's super cool to not answer that question. It's awesome. Like, you don't have to do it. Like, you don't have to, like, I don't know. It feels odd to me.
So when does the blending of the two best political podcasts begin?
Today. It happened today. If you are a patron of Politics, then you literally were there for my initial socially distanced greeting of Andrew Heaton, because he has yet to clear a vid test. As soon as he clears a vid test, he will enter into our social bubble. But yeah, it's today he's on talking about the Trump debate pullout and the VP debate.
Are you guys going to do any cross-pollination in your RSS feeds? That's okay. So no, but by which I mean actual content, like an episode of Politics shows up in the Political Orphanage with maybe a preamble saying, hey, I did a whole thing with Justin Robert Young and his show's really good and I thought you might enjoy it. Like that I'm surprised at how many shows I've eventually migrated over to specifically for that. Like I can hear them talk about being on another show a billion times, but and maybe I'll follow someone over who's a guest, but that's not nearly as common as somebody coming on the feed saying, "Hey, I did this other show, thought you might like it," and then I'll listen to other show and I'll be all like, that's a fine show, and then I'll go sub to it.
I guess I hadn't thought about that, but that is a really good idea. I think the idea, we do have a fairly crossoverable audience as it is. So it's like the more that we're just like regularly saying, if every week we're like, hey, by the way, if you want to hear more about this version of the conversation, I'm on Political Orphanage, or he's on PX3. That's kind of, but maybe he's got to be here for like a month, so we got time.
Well, maybe within the first week, pick just one to trade. One of his shows to put in your feed and one of your shows to put in his, because I've experienced that a few times where I've listened to both. Like when Penn Jillette was on Joe Rogan, I listened to the Joe Rogan podcast, and then the next week is Penn saying, I was on Joe Rogan, here it is, and I was like I wasn't mad at it, even though I got it twice. I was like, oh yeah, no, I already listened to this, and so I knew, and I skipped. RSS feeds, I think, are a little bit more forgiving, because like out of everything I have in my podcatcher, I would say I listen to maybe 15-20%. I just like having the rest around for when I want to. And so as a result, even in a particular RSS stream, if I see something that I've already listened to or already experienced, because I'm already a fan of the other thing, I as a consumer, I never mind it. I'm never upset about it.
Yeah. I would love to. Actually, you just reminded me. I never did for season 2. Send the new season to all my podcasting heroes. I should make sure to do that.
Oh yeah. Weekend. Oh, it's very good, by the way. I listened to it today. When you say at the beginning that you almost didn't put it out at this time, it sounded like you were teeing up a parallel to the coronavirus situation, but I don't know when that was recorded or if it was just happenstance.
No. I mean, so I probably should have rephrased that better, but no, I was more just saying that like the thing that happens at the beginning of that of this story is incomparable to anything, which probably is the thing that aged the worst, considering that came out the weekend that the president was in the hospital with a possibly deadly disease. So I probably should have, in hindsight, changed that to right up until the president went into the hospital. This was something that nobody would ever really be able to imagine a modern parallel to.
I think it's fine the way it was. I mean, I got sucked in really good. I thought
well, number one, let me just say this for everybody. Brian workshopped that first 5 minutes with me, and that is something that, like, the first 5 minutes of the series is as good as, if you enjoy it, it is as good as it is almost solely because Brian, again, is the best retail notes guy in the business. Like, you listen like a listener on a level that no creator I know listens like a listener. And you gave me amazing notes in that, specifically in that first 5 minutes, where it's like,
I love the opening line. I mean, the opening line definitely lands.
Yes, no, you helped me workshop that. You were the reason why I cut a whole big thing up front, and I condensed that to like 3 sentences at the very beginning. It was that opening is only as good as Brian gave me notes to help make it.
I guess we got to wrap up here pretty quick, but the part that I liked the most was what a good, in-depth, fair shake you gave the reputation of Barry Goldwater versus the man, and like that was wonderful and eye-opening, and I learned stuff, and I thought it was very well written and executed.
That was a tightrope. That and the police brutality stuff was.
You navigated
was a tightrope. Like, yeah. I gotta tell you, it was wasn't free and easy. Like, I definitely like had to make sure that I got that right, because I didn't want to like, I do think that Barry Goldwater is semi unfairly maligned. Like, I think that we look at that with modern sensibilities and be like, what, you voted against civil rights? What a racist. And it's like, yeah, but like there were people in the Senate that were like for real segregationists that weren't like, when you read his justification, Goldwater's justification now, you kind of feel like, well, that's what he's saying, but what does he really believe? And it's like, dude, like 3 seats down, there's a guy that's like, blacks aren't equal.
Yeah, there's Strom Thurmond, and it's like there was like if that was a weird dog whistle. It was the dumbest, most obtuse way to make your point. Back in an age when you could pick up a direct line to racists and say, "Are you racist? Because I'm your guy," and nobody would
just
blink.
play a racist riff, like,
Yeah, right.
and everybody will start banging their heads involuntarily. Yeah, but I'm so glad that the response to it has been great so far, and I'm very pumped. If you guys like it, then let me know.
Hells yeah! How often are episodes coming out?
Every Sunday.
Great.
Sunday next Sunday, Sunday after that, and then the mail-in episode after that.
Awesome. All right. Well, look, shorter episode this time because we did Daily Tech News Show. We should tell people to listen to that episode so you can get us talking a whole bunch more. The episode about quitting your job to do something you love. That's what
hell yeah.
All right, man. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
See ya.
Oh, did I get it? Let's see. There it is. Nailed it.
Happy hour. Night Attacks Happy Hour. Night Attacks Happy Hour.